Hello everybody and welcome to another episode. In today's episode I am going to show you how to replace the injectors O-rings from any engine with the size 1.9 or 2.0 TDI. Today I'm working on this Audi A4 with this kind of engine. This car is from the year 2007 and I'll have to replace the O-rings from the injectors just for my safety, just for maintenance, because they have never been replaced, and because of that probably the injectors will work even better than how they are working right now. So to begin, what you'll have to do is to remove this engine cover. You'll have 3 screws which you'll have to remove, and after that you'll have to put it away. Then after that you'll have to remove the cover from the camshaft. You'll have 13 screws which you'll have to remove, and you'll have to use a Torx 30 or a Torx 35 to remove the bolts. So as you can see, this is the cover from the top of the engine. This is covering the internal parts from the engine, and also this is covering the injectors. So if you want to remove the injectors on this kind of engine, you'll have to remove this cover first. But on this car, because of the intake manifold size and because of the position where it's mounted, and also because this car has an EGR cooling valve, you won't really be able to remove the camshaft cover without scratching it or without cracking it in the worst case. So what I recommend you to do is to remove the timing belt cover, and after that you'll have to remove this pipe from right here. Then as you can see, this timing belt cover, the pulley from the top, it has a few metal pins, and the camshaft cover, it's hitting in those metal pins when you're trying to remove it. So this is why it's difficult to remove it. So what I recommend you to do is to remove one spark plug or all of the spark plugs if it's easier for you. So in my case I'm going to remove the spark plug number 3 because I don't want to have a lot of compression, because I'm turning the engine and I don't have to put a lot of force when I'm trying to turn the engine. So I will remove this spark plug, and after that I'll have to turn the engine until the metal pins from the top of the pulley where the timing belt is installed from the camshaft. As you can see, you'll have right here one metal pin, until all of these metal pins will go underneath the cover which is covering the camshaft itself. So I'm not sure if it makes any sense, but just follow what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm turning the engine a few times, and as you can see, I have a lot of metal pins right here at the top of the pulley, and I'll have to turn the engine until all of these metal pins will go underneath the camshaft cover. So this is what you'll have to do, and after that you can go ahead and remove the bolts, and you'll have to try to remove the camshaft cover in this position. So as you can see, right now at the top of the pulley I have no metal pins which can block me from removing the cover from the engine. So right now I'm going to remove all of the bolts, and I'm going to try to remove it in this way, and normally it should come out very easy in this way. You'll have to wiggle it around just a little bit and eventually it will come out. Now with all of the bolts removed, as you can see, the camshaft cover came out very easy. And this is the plastic part which will hit in those metal pins from the timing belt pulley, and if you don't turn the engine, you won't really be able to remove it completely from the engine. Now with the engine cover removed, you can go ahead and check the connectors from the injectors. You'll have to check the wiring, you'll have to check the camshaft, you'll have to check the injectors itself, and also check if you have any leaks. Maybe the fuel pump is leaking and you are able to see it from right here, from this space, after you remove the engine cover. And as you can see, this engine is looking very good for its age. The oil had been replaced at maximum 15,000 kilometers from what the owner told me, so everything is good from right here. As you can see, after remove the injectors, you'll have to measure the distance. Right here there is a special distance where the injectors are mounted, and you'll have to measure it exactly. You have to put the injector exactly in the same spot. To remove the injectors completely from the car, you'll have to remove the bolts from the top of the injectors, and after that you'll have to remove the connectors from the injectors. Then you'll have to remove each bolt from the top of the camshaft. And as you can see, I have a lot of oil inside the bolt right here, and I recommend all to take some pressurized air and clean every single bolt where you'll have to remove, because you want to have a clean surface. You will want to see the exact size of the tool, and you'll want to know the exact tool which you'll have to use, because if you strip the threads, you won't longer be able to remove the screws, and you'll have very big problems. So from here, just follow what I'm doing. You'll have to remove the connector, and you'll have to pull it out. And normally the wiring connector, it has a special place right here, and you'll have to put it inside that place, but it's not a very important thing. You can also let it hang like this without any problem. And from here you will also have one screw which is holding the injector right here at the bottom. This is the screw, and this is the metal part which is holding the injector mounted inside the engine. And from here, just follow what I'm doing, because it's a very simple job. Normally, if you want to do this thing, normally you will have some knowledge about the engines and about the cars, so I'm not really going to explain it everything, because it's a long process and it's a lot of important things which you'll have to follow. And if you don't really know what you're doing, I don't recommend you guys to even start doing this. To begin, what you have to do first is to use an 18mm socket for the bolts from the top of the injectors and an Allen key. And for now, don't remove the bolts completely. You will only want to release the pressure, and after you see that the injector is not pressurized by the camshaft, you can go ahead and remove the rest of the bolts. And one thing I recommend you all to do is to put every injector and every single bolt which you removed in the exact same spot after you're done with it and after you reinstall it back in the engine. So for example, if you remove the injector number 1 from the injector number 1 spot, I recommend you all to install it back in the exact same spot, in the exact same hole, because in this way you want to risk to damage any parts, so everything will be installed properly, and you also want to risk to damage any threads from the cylinder head. So from here, it's a very simple job. Normally you'll have to remove all of these things, you'll have to put them away in order, and after that you'll have to remove the little bolts which are securing the injectors mounted on the car. And normally, to remove this kind of injectors, you'll have to use a special tool, and I don't have it for now, so I don't have the special tool to remove the injectors for this car, but I'm improvising, and I'm going to show you guys how to remove the injectors on these cars without having the need to buy a special tool and a special press to do it in your place. So from here, it's a very simple job. Just follow what I'm doing. So after remove the clamp and the screws which are securing the injector mounted to the engine, you'll have to take a breaker bar or a metal bar, and you'll have to push the injector left and right until it will come a little bit loose, and after that you'll have to take a piece of wire and a piece of wood. So in my case, I'm going to take a piece of wood and I'm going to put it right here over this intake manifold, because I don't want to scratch or to bend any of the metal pipes from right here. And I'm going to take a piece of wire like this, and I'm going to put it around the injector. So you'll have to put it around the injector, around the metal part. And in my case, as you can see, I also have another breaker bar, which I'm going to use to push the injector up, and with another hand I'm going to turn the injector left and right. And as you can see, the piece of rope is a little bit long right here, and I'm going to tighten it to make it a little bit shorter, and I'm going to do the exact same steps. So as you can see, I'm putting the breaker bar, I'm installing the piece of wire under the metal part from the injector. I'm going to show you in a second where this piece of wire will go, and with one hand, as you can see, I'm pushing the injector left and right, and the injector came out very good. If you put a little more pressure, as you can see, like in my case I did, the injector will fly out very easy. So make sure to not put the metal wire on the connector, and as you can see, you have to put it like this. And this is a perfect method which you can follow and which you can use to remove the injectors at home and without having the need to use a special press if you don't have one. So you have to follow the exact same steps for each injector itself. You'll have to do it for all the injectors, and only using this method you'll be able to remove them without breaking it or without having any problems with the engine. So from here, with one hand, as you can see, I'm turning the injector left and right, and with one hand I'm pulling it up, and it's coming out very easy. Just make sure you don't want to pull it too hard, because you don't want to drop the injector on the ground, or you don't want to break anything from the injector. And like I told you earlier, don't put the piece of rope, don't put it over the connector, because the connector is made from plastic and it can break. So I recommend all to put it underneath this metal part, underneath this big metal part, and in this way you'll be able to remove it very easy at home and with normal tools. After remove the injectors, I recommend all to check the injector holes, and normally on these cars, on any engine with the size 1.9 or 2.0 TDI with this kind of injectors, you will have some worn out marks inside the hole, because the injectors is only clamping in one side, the other side of the injectors it's pushing around the cylinder head and is causing it to worn out prematurely. So in some cases it's a very bad to have it worn out like this, and to fix it you'll have to replace the cylinder head. But in some cases you'll only have to use some very fine sandpaper to scratch the swirls just a little bit, to scratch the marks and to make them evenly, because if you don't make them evenly you can break up the new o-rings which you're going to install back on the injector. So I'm not sure if it makes sense, but if you are a mechanic and if you want to do this job, you will know for sure what I'm talking about. And right here, as you can see, I have the injectors, I have the new o-rings, and I also have the new gasket for the camshaft case. So as you can see, this is how the injectors are looking. This is the injector number 1, and I placed them in order 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this is how it's looking. Every injector is looking very good from the exterior, and I will only have to replace all the o-rings, and I have to replace all of these metal pins from the top of the injectors. After you remove the o-rings from the injectors, I recommend all to take the injector and clean it very good. You have to use some very fine sandpaper to clean the top of the injectors, and after that you have to use a very sharp tool which will help you to remove the o-rings safely, and you have to put them aside, and you have to place the new o-rings in the exact same spot. Don't overcross the o-rings. You'll have the bigger o-ring which will go at the top, and from there each of the o-rings will be smaller and smaller and smaller. And as you can see, this injector, it has already the o-ring from the bottom, it's worn out and it's a little bit crushed, and I hope you all can see it very clearly. My camera is not focusing very good, but I hope you all can see it. So this o-ring, it's already cutted. I think it's cutted because of the installation, or because it was never replaced in the last 3 or 4 years. So this is how it's looking. This is one of the reasons why I choose to replace the O-rings and why it's a good idea to replace it on your car also. Normally, you won't know if the injector had a bad seal or not, and as you can see, this injector, in my case, it has a bad seal, and this is why I choose to replace them in the first place. This is why I thought they must be replaced soon, because they haven't been replaced in a few years, so this is how they are looking. To replace the copper washer from the bottom, the crush washer, to replace it, you'll have to use a set of pliers, and you'll have to pull it very hard from the top of the injector, and normally this copper washer, it's held in with another little metal wire. You'll have a metal wire which is mounted after the crush washer. So as you can see, this is how it's looking. This is holding the crush washer from not falling around when you're going to install the injector back in the car. So if you don't install this part, the copper washer, the crush washer from the top of the injector will fall out because it's not perfectly fitted on the top of the injector. And from here you'll have to clean the injector very good. I'm going to clean it and I'm going to install everything back together after that. From here, you'll also have at the top of the injector, you have this metal part. You'll have to replace also this metal part if you want to do a good job. I'm going to replace everything. And as you can see, this is how it's looking. It's not very worn out, but it's good to replace it if you are working with the injectors in this point. So as you can see, right here inside, there is another O-ring which you'll have to remove, and you'll have to use something sharp to catch it. And as you can see, it's fitted right here. You'll have to use something sharp and put it underneath, and after that you'll have to remove it and put a new one back into place. Okay everybody, so I'm done with cleaning the injector. The injector is looking great. I made it like new. I even cleaned the top of the injector. All of the grime and dirt from the top of the injector, it's cleaned out. Now it should perform at its best. And normally all of the parts from the exterior are looking great and are in the perfect shape. So from here, as you can see, this is the wear part which I talked about at the beginning. This is where the injector is pressing against the cylinder head, and this is why it's causing the swirl marks and also the gaps which is making inside the cylinder head. And normally, if you are able to sand it just a little bit, if you are using a very fine sandpaper, you'll be able to get rid of some of the marks, and you'll be able to put the injector correctly without having the need to scratch the new O-rings or to break anything from the cylinder head. So from here, just follow what I'm doing. I'm going to install everything back together. Always use some engine oil. You will want to lubricate the O-rings very good. You will want to lubricate the injector very good, and after that you will want to install it back in the car lubricated. And in the last, I'm also going to clean the cylinder head. I'm going to clean the space where the injectors will fit in, the holes, and also I'm going to clean the seals around it, and I'm going to make it like new, and I'm going to make it in the best way where I can make it to install everything back together in the engine. As you'll see, I replaced all of the O-rings from the injector number 1. So in total, you'll have to replace all of the O-rings and you'll have to replace the screw which is securing the injector mounted to the cylinder head. So always replace the screws which are securing the injectors mounted to the engine, to the cylinder head. You'll have to use new screws all the time because the old screws will stretch out and the threads will stretch out, and in some cases they can break very easily. So don't reuse the screws, only use new bolts which are securing the injector mounted on the car. And from here I'm going to do the exact same thing for the rest of them. As you can see right here, I replaced all of the O-rings, all of the screws, and all of the O-rings and the injectors are looking perfectly. They are in a perfectly working order. They are in a very good condition. This is how everything is looking. And right now I'm going to clean the engine like I told you earlier. I'm going to clean the engine very good. I'm going to make everything like new and I'm going to put them back in the engine. So from here you'll have to be very carefully because you'll have to tighten all of the screws to a specific number of Newton meters and you'll have to tighten it to a specific numbers of degrees. So from here just follow what I'm doing. As you can see, this is how the cylinder head is looking, this is how the camshaft is looking, and also this is how the holes where the injectors will be installed are looking. I used some very fine sandpaper like I told you at the beginning of this video. I removed some of the swirls and some of the marks which were made inside the holes from the injectors, and as you can see right now I'm able to go ahead and install the new injectors back on the car. But this thing will be in the next episode, so thank you all for watching. If you like this video and found it informative, please leave a like and a comment down below. See you next time.